Rolling Stones are about to roll into Boston for their 50 and counting tour. No, that's not a reference to their age, but the number of years the band has been together. We take a quick look back. They couldn't get satisfaction, but to generations of fans, they've provided plenty. Great rock bands have come and gone, but with over 80 albums and 100 singles under their belt, the Rolling Stones have endured long enough to earn the title, the greatest rock and roll band in the world. When Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ron Woods, and Charlie Watts roll into town for tomorrow night's concert at the TD Garden, they will deliver decades of music history. And though most of the band members have lived the fast life well into their 60s, they show little indication of slowing down. So whether this is the last appearance in Boston for the music legends remains to be seen. And here to tell us whether or not this is the last time the Stones roll into Boston is music writer Stephen Davis, who profiled the band in his book, Old Gods Almost Dead, The Rolling Stones Saga. Well, that was 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, and
10 years ago.
Here.
Yep. Still
here. I see you have your Rolling Stones
I got my logo, my tongue logo tied. We're tongue-tied here, but hopefully not on this segment. And you know, I'm so excited because it's traditional to get excited when the Rolling Stones come to town. You come to Boston, you know.
I think I went to the one in 1989. That was Foxborough. It was Steel Wheels, maybe?
Yeah, Sullivan, I think it was even
Sullivan
then.
Stadium.
Sullivan
that was
Stadium.
actually a bit of a
nightmare. And then it turned into Foxborough.
Yeah.
But I first saw them when I was 19 years old in Lynn, Massachusetts.
Yeah, tell us that story.
At the Manning Bowl, and the Rolling Stones came into town, and they were promoting their album Aftermath, and they were the hottest group in the world. The Beatles had stopped touring.
66 this was?
66, summer of 66, and so they came to the Manning Bowl in Lynn, and the first song was Not Fade Away, and 3 bars into the song, the teenagers charged the stage, mounted it, the band fled, chairs started flying, the Lynn police unleashed tear gas. I thought to myself, this is the energy I want to be around every day.
And they canceled.
Didn't get through one song.
That's awful.
But the energy of it, and the kids going berserk, and even the 20 seconds that they played, it was brilliant. So every time the Stones come back to Boston, I get excited again. So
we have a picture here of 1969, The Garden. Were you at that one too?
Sure, I've been to almost all of them. Yeah, maybe 20 shows over 40 years. You know.
There was also a really infamous concert in 1972. There was a race riot going on in South Boston. There was a concert. Tell the story.
There was a race riot going on in the South End.
South End, sorry.
And the Rolling Stones were due to fly in, and the smoke from the race riot closed down Logan Airport. They were burning buildings. And so the Rolling Stones landed in Providence, and a reporter from the Providence Journal, a photographer, heard about it and rushed out to the airport and was punched out by the guitar player, Keith Richards, and who was immediately arrested. Meanwhile, 18,000 people and me are in Boston Garden waiting. Stevie Wonder is the opening act. He has to play 3.5 hours. And after he goes off the stage, the mayor of Boston, Kevin White, comes out in his shirt sleeves and asked for quiet, and he said, tonight my city is in flames, and we need the cops guarding the concert in the South End to control the riot. And I want to ask all of you 18,000 Rolling Stones fans to be cool, and they're going to come and they'll get here eventually and leave quietly. And so the Stones arrived 5 or 6 hours late, played till 2, 3 in the morning, and there wasn't a problem with the crowd afterwards, and the riot was over the next day.
Wow.
That's one of the most famous times they came through, because there was politicians were involved in arrests.
Kevin White, that's the only time he got involved when James Brown was here during the busing thing too. So it was classic Kevin White. Classic
Mayor White. Yep. Yeah. And you know, but every time they came, it was exciting. And when they came in 1969, they had new songs.
Yeah, that was the MLK assassination, which is why
exactly. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
But you know, every time they come, it's exciting, or at least it used to be. I mean, I get excited, but many people think.
Are you going to both concerts?
No, I'm just going tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But many people, you know, think that the Rolling Stones were over a long time ago, and part of me kind of agrees with that, you know. But who they were and what they represented, and you know, I went to the. In 1965, I went to see Andy Warhol at the Factory in New York, and they were playing Rolling Stones records. They were playing December's Children, and you know, constantly. So the Stones really kind of created the 60s in many ways, I think. You know, if you think of pop art and rock and roll and attitude and street fighting and all that stuff, demonstrations, they were all part of everything, and they opened up kind of new worlds for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, their music in many ways is more enduring than the Beatles. So right now they're doing this social media thing. They're asking people to vote for the songs they want them to play. I'm sure they've already got their playlist. But if you could vote for a couple of your favorites, what would they be?
I like really obscure ones, like Fingerprint File. You know, most people go, what? You know, I've never heard of that. Or, you know, Star as they call it. And you know, they're just all these great, heavy, deep tracks, as they say, you know, of little masterpieces that they almost can't play because they have to play the hits. They have to play Start Me Up and Satisfaction and Street Fighting or whatever like that, you know. I hope they go a little deeper into their...
I like some of their new stuff, too.
You do?
Newer stuff. Not well, no,
You're the first person who's ever said that to me. Truly.
No, I do. Emotional Rescue, that was relatively new. I mean,
well, that was 40 years ago.
No.
Emotional Rescue, 78. So I can't add any more, but, you know. But I know what you mean. Those are that was 1980.
But some of my favorites were Paint It Black and Lady Jane.
Classic 60s. That's what they were going to sing at Lynn in the Manning Bowl if they had gotten past one song, I think.
Yeah, so why do you think, and is Mick Jagger still as athletic and kind of, does he have that agility that he has?
Yeah, I think he has a phenomenon. People are writing songs. There's a big hit song about him last summer called, you know, Moves Like Jagger by some group I don't even know the name of, you know. So younger group, the next generation is picking up on, you know, the way this guy moves and his phenomenal energy. And
how old is he now?
He was born in 43, so he's going to be 70.
70.
So it was funny you said, you know, the 50 and counting tour, you know, not really having to do with their ages. These guys are 70 and over. The drummer's well over 70. You know, I'm not even allowed to say how old he is. But these guys, but you know, on the other hand, the Rolling Stones named their band after Muddy Waters, a song called Rolling Stone Blues. And Muddy Waters, when he was 75, was playing Las Vegas, sitting on a stool, playing guitar. You know, whether or not this is indeed the Stones' last hurrah in Boston, I don't know, and no one does.
But did you interview them? Did you travel with them at all when you did?
I interviewed Keith and Mick in 1983, 84, something like that. Spent time with them.
Were they cooperative?
Very, because I was writing for a magazine called We, which was like a skin magazine, was part of Playboy, and they wanted to be in that in that milieu, you know. So yeah, they were very helpful and nice and outrageous. I can't even say on the air, but it was fun to be around that energy.
And are they straighter now, or do they still drink?
Yeah, I think they are. Well, Jagger does nothing, and I know this for a fact because we have mutual friends, acquaintances, and the other ones I don't think anyone could safely say that about. So.
But I mean, I suppose just in terms of being able to hold it together, he had to do that.
Well, in touring now, you have to pass a physical, or else you won't get insured. So you can be insured.
Really?
Oh yeah, no one, especially since Michael Jackson.
I didn't know that.
But always for the last 20 years, Keith Richards has had to pass fairly stringent physicals administered by insurance company certified doctors. So, you know, whatever the legend or the myth is, you know, it's probably a little bit closer to the fact that he's able to do this and play 50 shows and make this, or otherwise they wouldn't get insured. They couldn't go out.
I never knew that. Yep. That's good to know. What a detail. All right, Stephen Davis, you have a blast at tomorrow night's concert.
Thank you.
I'm a little jealous, although.
We're looking forward.
I don't know. All right. That is it for Greater Boston. Tomorrow night, it's opening statements in the United States versus James Whitey Bulger. We take you back through Whitey's criminal career and talk to his allies, his enemies, and his victims in a 1-hour Greater Boston, the Whitey Bulger special, tomorrow at 7. I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for watching.
Gee, think he's...